one of the big mistakes I see a lot of agents make is they think that their success and their accomplishment is going to be from the variety of things that they do. Hey, real estate agents, welcome to the RMG Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Reed Moore. Really excited that you're here again with us to deep dive into your career as a real estate agent. As always, we're here to make an impact in your life and your business, to empower you through skills, through mindset, just through different things that we've learned over the course of a lot of years, and to ultimately just really encourage you to do the work, encourage you to build your life and build your business in real estate. If you haven't watched episode 1, we talked about mindset, we talked about effort, we talked about skill set, and really taking those things and putting them to use in your life and in your business. And hopefully that was encouraging to you. I'm here again with my co-host, Jake Bartlett.
Hey, everybody.
And we're going to deep dive into another topic. What do we got?
We have got 1 career, 2 jobs, and the 3 buckets of money that come with it.
All right.
So here's what our goal and what we're looking to do is we want you to be purposeful about your real estate career and how you look at it and how you approach it. And so we're going to talk a lot about focus and the things that are important within your real estate career. So the first thing.
So the first thing we're going to talk about, so we have these different things, Jake. We have when somebody signs up to be a real estate professional, they have kind of an avatar in their mind as to what that looks like. And it turns out everybody has a little bit different avatar, right?
Yeah.
And real estate as a career is kind of like being a doctor or being a lawyer. Just because you're a doctor or a lawyer, that doesn't tell the whole story as to what it is that you actually do, right?
Right. Yep. So that's, the outside looking in, there's a lot of different ways people see us as realtors. A lot of them tend to be very comical. You think of Phil on Modern Family. He's
Sure.
a goofball and, he's just out there showing houses and, putting signs in yards. And that's kind of what people think of as the real estate career. My favorite thing that people tell me is I want to be a realtor because I love looking at houses.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you hear it day in and day out. And that is such a fraction of what your real estate career is. And so we're going to approach that from a different direction.
Yeah.
So,
you have one career. And what we mean by that is the most successful people on the planet, they focus.
mm-hmm.
They do one thing and they do it at a master level. They do one thing better than everybody else. And that one thing isn't real estate when it comes to a career. There are a bunch of specialties inside of real estate because
Right.
real estate, just like law, just like being a doctor, any of those things, it's just far too broad, right? So when we think about that, the question, I think, first and foremost, if you want to be highly successful, highly accomplished in real estate, you need to figure out what vertical or what
mm-hmm.
specialty in real estate that you focus on.
Yeah. Are you going to work with buyers? Are you going to work with sellers? Are you only going to work with buyers? Are you only going to work with sellers? Are you going to do commercial real estate? Are you going to do property management? There's lots of different avenues that you could do within the career, and deciding and focusing on what's going to be best for you.
Yeah. And I think one of the big mistakes I see a lot of agents make is they think that their success and their accomplishment is going to be from the variety of things that they do, right? I grew up in Western Montana, kind of a ranch farm type environment. And the general mindset that everybody had was a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Right.
And it was fine. It was a great way to live, right? The issue was that type of mindset didn't lead to a high level of success or accomplishment in any one thing.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with living that way. The issue is in real estate, I think a lot of people, they get caught up in, I need to be able to service in this state and this state and this state and this state. Mm-hmm. Or I need to be able to service buyers and sellers, and I need to do property management. Mm-hmm. And man, if there's a commercial deal that comes my way, I need to do that. And what you end up having is you have people that chase all of those things kind of all at once.
Right.
And they don't truly master any one thing, because you don't fundamentally, if you decide, hey, in my career, I am master at working with buyers. I crush it. I get a ton
Mhm.
of referrals. I am so excellent at this. People that do that and they give themselves to it and they go all in, they make a lot of money.
Mhm.
Same thing if somebody wakes up one day and says, you know what, I am excellent at working with residential sellers. Or, I have a coaching client and he is outstanding at working with investors. And he just goes all in on that vertical and he makes great money.
What's really interesting, so when I started my real estate career, I worked for a buyers only brokerage, and
Mm.
I did that for 9 years. We focused only on buyers, and we were really good at it, and we made a lot of money. But there's this thing that happens when you master and focus on one thing. Business shows up in other areas, right? Like
Yes.
more so than if you tried to expand and master all of it at once.
Hmm.
But when you master one thing, business shows up. And ultimately, that's what led me to branching out into doing sellers as well. Is we
Yeah.
just had so many clients that loved the level of service that we gave them as buyers agents that they wanted
Yeah.
us to work with them on the listing side as well.
Yeah. And one of the natural progressions of your career in real estate is that success in one area will beget opportunities across
Mhm.
other areas.
Right.
And then you have this tension. And the tension is this the next logical
Mhm.
step for my real estate career?
Right.
Or is this something that I actually should decide to hand off to somebody else?
Mhm.
And that's a very, very hard decision to make, right? Yes, you can make money handing it off, you can make a referral fee, all of that. But ultimately, it's really hard when somebody who comes to you that knows you, likes you, and trusts you says, "Hey, would you do this for me?"
Right.
And I think that over the course of a career, you end up stacking lots and lots of skills
Mhm.
that allow you to do more and more things at a pretty high level. But you do always have this core of this is what I'm
Mhm.
excellent at. This is what I'm
Mhm.
outstanding at. And then you also have the peripheral, which is these are things that you should probably say no to. Like, for instance, let's say that you work with residential buyers and sellers and you have an opportunity to do a really high level commercial lease,
Right.
right? And so over here is a huge box store like Target, and over here is maybe the biggest landowner in your state, and here you are, right? You might have all the relationships, but that's a place where it's really great to be a part of and to learn, but not be the centerpiece, right?
Yeah, I think we have this temptation, and what's the saying is when you say yes to something, you say no to other things.
Hmm.
When you take the time to try to do the level of service that you do with your residential buyers and sellers in that example, to learn the big lease for a commercial building,
Hmm.
you take away so much from what you're good at that usually you're going to lose out on business over there. And the benefit from this big deal usually doesn't weigh out what you would get if you stayed in your lane and passed that off and learned alongside that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that it's very counterintuitive. A lot of the things in our
Hmm.
success journey is counterintuitive, but I hand off a ton of business and have other people do that business,
Hmm.
and they make the lion's share of the money, but I make a small portion of that.
Yeah.
And as long as I stay in my lane, I'm actually very, very happy. I'm very, I have a high level of skill in my lane. And then other people around me actually make great money as a result of that. And so I just think it's one of the things right out of the gate with your real estate career is maybe the lie is that what you actually need to be successful is a massive variety of things that you do.
Yeah.
But especially if you're just starting, or if you haven't really gotten on step to where you're a master of something, choose something, focus in on it, and do it better than everybody else.
Yeah. I'm going to correlate with this and have maybe a counterintuitive perspective to what the norm is. I passed off listings for
Mm,
a long time,
sure.
for probably 3 or 4 years. And the moment that there was a decision, I say we because it was me and my wife worked together.
Hmm.
The moment that we made the decision that we had to go figure out the listing side of things came with it had to happen because we were passing off so many leads. We
Sure.
created such a big business that it just like it was forced on us because the amount of stuff that we were sending out, like 10, 11, 12 listings a year.
Yeah.
that we were sending out, that was the moment that it was worth it. When we were sending 2 deals over, a year, or 3
Mhm.
deals over a year, it wasn't worth it. It was the same when we decided to branch out to a different state.
Yeah.
Like that came as a force of, there was so much business that was being passed off, not that we were looking to try to maybe cover for some mistakes that we were making in our business
Mhm.
by taking on a bigger, market share of something.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that your success will push you into other things, right? And then you have
Mhm.
to decide, is this the right thing or
Right.
not? But again, when you haven't mastered something,
Mhm.
the lure to just do more things is very, very attractive. But it's also it's not the way that if you think about professional athletes, you think about professional musicians, you might know somebody like Michael Jordan who played 3 sports
Mhm.
well. He actually was really good at baseball. He's phenomenal at golf,
Mhm.
but he's a master at basketball.
Right.
Like that is the one thing, right? And
Right.
then you look outside of him and maybe a few other athletes, they're really good at a lot of things, but that one thing is what they committed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parallel that as well, as I think that figuring out what you want to do and becoming the master in that, and finding a way to evaluate those other opportunities outside is the important. So maybe that's something that you could touch on, is when you do have some of these deals and things that are coming on, how do you evaluate whether or not you're going to do it yourself, or if you're going to pass it off?
That's a good question. So the first thing is that if I'm living my life by priority,
Mm,
then that automatically causes me to say no to certain things.
mm,
And if I'm living my life by mission, that causes me to say yes and no to different things.
yep.
So what I mean by that is for me, I have a written mission,
Mm,
right? My mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. But then also, here's what the next 3 years in business,
right.
what I want them to look like. And so the question is always, is this a part of, or is this the next logical step? And if the answer is no, then the question is, okay, will this detract from the next logical step? Typically, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So if it's not something that I'm going to do, then the very next question is, who is the person that's going to do this?
Yep.
And that might mean farming it out for a fee, and it might mean that actually bringing somebody else into my life and into my world is a part of the next logical step, and that just causes the company to be able to have
Mhm.
a broader reach.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that you are purposeful and you're focused on your direction that you're going.
Hmm.
You have a plan and you have a tool within your mission
That's right.
to be able to, take those opportunities and weigh them against the direction that you're going.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because for the people who are listening that are newer in their business journey, their biggest perceived issue may be there's not enough opportunity available
Hmm.
to them. If they like on our last episode, if they work on their mindset, their effort, and their skill set, that will no longer be the issue.
Right.
The issue then becomes you have too many options. You
Hmm.
have too many good things to say yes to,
Hmm.
and now all of a sudden your skill set has to be learning how to say no. Like for example, when we invest, there's a lot of different things that we don't invest in, and they're great things and other people make really great money doing it, but we're really clear on this is what we do and this is what we're comfortable with and this is in alignment with our skill set. And once you make peace with being able to say no to really good things, there's a lot of freedom that comes with that too.
Nice. So if we're talking about the 2 jobs within real estate,
Mm.
what do you mean there?
Yeah, so we have one career, right? So we're talking about focus, 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 focus.
Right.
But now all of a sudden we say, okay, you have 2 jobs in real
Hmm.
estate. And it turns out in any type of business endeavor, you have at least 2 jobs. It's
Right.
just it's something that we don't talk about in the entrepreneurial world. It's something that's not well known until it slaps you in the
Hmm.
face. And that is whatever you do, you have the specialty or the skilled work that you do as a tradesperson, right?
Yep.
I'm an electrician. I'm specifically a commercial electrician, right?
Right.
Or I'm a real estate agent. Specifically, I am a property manager, right?
Right.
Whatever that vertical is. And now we say, okay, that's great. It's wonderful that you have this skill set, but you don't have anybody that needs that skill set,
Yeah.
right? You don't have anybody who's raising their hand saying, I want a property manager, or I want to buy a house, or I want to list a house. And so people typically go to school for or train for their specialty, and they don't understand that what makes you a business person is that you understand that you have to go find people that
Mhm.
they need your services, they need your specialty.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is the dirty word lead generation.
Lead generation.
Yep.
Lead generation. And Jake, one of the hard things about lead generation as a conversation is if you've heard the phrase before,
Hmm.
it's so easy to it's so easy just to shut off, right? As soon as, like, in this podcast somebody heard lead generation, right, instantly, again, they have an avatar, right,
Hmm.
which is like boiler room,
Hmm.
right? Or it's for sale by owners, it's expireds, it's door knocking, it's the boiler room, it's the agent who's never done any of that stuff and has a very successful business after 17 years, right? Like, people have this avatar around lead generation, and it's like, man, if we could just call it something else that maybe people would listen to. We say opportunity creation. Like, your
Hmm.
job is your specialty and opportunity creation.
Yeah. It's the cash flow generator of your real estate business.
That's right. Like,
Yeah.
this is the engine. So am I committed to you making phone calls? Well, no. But if you don't have a plan to talk to enough people and to have
Hmm.
enough relationships that are specifically asking about buying, selling, investing, or just general questions about real estate, then your specialty sits idle,
Hmm.
right? You're the restaurant owner that has the best restaurant in town in your head, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves your food, except for nobody shows up and eats your food,
Hmm.
right? That's a problem.
Yeah. It's a prime example. I had pork at your house. You made one of the best pork chops I've ever had. If you opened a restaurant, I would know how good it
Mhm.
was, but nobody else would.
Right.
So how do we get people in? And that's what we're talking about. Of you can have the best service, you can be the best skilled agent.
Mhm.
We need to find you clients to work with.
Yes.
And so we are going to be purposeful about how we go about getting those clients. And what we do, or what successful agents do, is 3 hours a day.
3 hours a day.
And there's a reason behind that. And I heard you tell somebody, and I'll let you explain it, but it has to do with 90-minute focus gaps, right? Or focus timelines.
Yeah. So it turns out that in sales is like being an artist. It's like being a professional athlete. It's like being a writer. It's like being a movie producer. Any of those things, and that is that you have a type of work that's called maker work or maker time.
Mm-hmm.
And maker time is long, uninterrupted hours of being able to generate or create something.
Mm-hmm.
So an artist, if you've ever met somebody who's an artist or a writer, like, they need to go away and they need to get away from distractions. Okay, well, why is that? They need their brain to be able to create and stay in a state of flow for long enough to produce something of value. In our businesses, we don't need that type of time when it comes to servicing our clients. That's called manager time. Like, we are doing things, we're going from appointment to appointment to appointment, just executing on our skill set. But to be able to fill the pipeline of people, we need to be uninterrupted for a long period of time, because that causes us to have a multiplying effect. That 3 hours, it sounds like a long time, but over the course of time, it compounds. And 3 hours lead generation every day will cause you to have a bigger business than you could even stand. It will absolutely blow your mind. The challenge is if you don't do that, you will spend 6 or 8 hours sort of doing even less work than you would have done in that 3 hour block.
Yep. So 15 hours a week is the amount that most successful agents do. And then from there will be time where they grow that, right? Like,
Yeah.
And that leads to the growth, and it kind of leads to our next portion of this, which is how the world pays you within real estate, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
we've got 3 different buckets of money,
Yes.
and that's going to be you're going to be paid for your skills or the ability to, work with the clients,
Mm-hmm.
interact, you negotiate, show houses, work on home inspection responses, all that stuff, get stuff to the closing.
Mm-hmm.
The other side is going to be the operations side, and then lead generation's that third way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If
that's
you
right.
were to put dollar figures to how much, and I know you can,
Sure.
what dollar figures are we talking? You've got somebody that's let's say a showing assistant. It's going to actually show the houses for you. What's the world pay you for that?
Yeah. So in general, if we look at it as three buckets, right? You have the operational bucket, you have your specialty bucket, and you have your lead generation bucket. They all pay different rates because they all have a different level of value when it comes to the overall business. And so when I look at lead generation, I've seen people's lead generation time be worth typically anywhere from $500 to $2,000 an hour, right?
Yeah.
That sounds hard to believe, like $2,000 an hour. That's achievable. The hard thing is that getting pure lead generation hours in is very, very difficult. It takes a lot of discipline, great habits, but you see people who do that. They make a tremendous amount of money from lead generation. Then the second tier is going to be your specialty work. And if you get truly excellent at your craft, that's going to pay kind of a commensurate amount to maybe what a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or maybe even just a high level plumber or tradesman would make. And that is, let's just call it $70 to $100 an hour, something like that. You can make really, really great money and build a huge life off of servicing business. The challenge is that you can't do that if you don't first acquire the business. So it becomes irrelevant, or you go to work inside of an organization that does lead generation and pitches those opportunities to you, right? If they're doing that, they know that this, you have to go do just a phenomenal job. So a company like Redfin might be a good example of doing this, right? The challenge with that, of course, is that if I control the lead generation and I do all the lead generation, I do what's the hardest thing and the thing that pays the most over the course of time, then I have enough people who don't want to deal with their fear. They don't want to deal with rejection. They don't want to deal with all that stuff. So then the specialty starts to kind of get glutted a little bit. So if I have twice as many people that are willing to do specialty work because they really enjoy it as lead generation, now all of a sudden the value of this starts to shrink. So I'll give you a good example. When the TV show CSI came out, right? The original one, there's CSI Miami, and then like New York. I loved all those shows.
Yeah.
What ended up happening is that career field got so everybody was so excited to go to college to become a crime scene investigator.
Right.
And what happened was the number of jobs around the country were a small fraction of the number of people who were wanting to go in for those jobs. Like there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people that went to school for that, more than like overwhelmingly. Like there were like somewhere between like 5 and 10% of people could get placed into that job, right? So that becomes the challenge of focusing on this. If you can't go out and do the heavy lifting, then you may not even get the opportunity to do this. But you can still make great money doing it. And then the third piece is, in any industry, there is a lot of operational work, a lot of things that just have to happen to make everything go around. And that work is worth maybe $20 an hour. Now it might be worth closer to $30 an hour if it's done extremely well. And people can build a huge, huge life doing operational work because the operational work, it has opportunities to make more money. But anything that makes more money, it's because it's not just doing the work. It's because somebody has been able to create a system that now does a multiple of that work, right? Which ultimately ends up being back up here in this specialty, right? If I can go in and I can engineer a system, then I'm back in this bucket, right? So if I'm a real estate professional and I go out and I make $50,000 a year and I tell everybody I work 60 hours a week, right? Your calendar and your pocketbook betray you, right? Because what that ultimately says is if this work is no kidding worth $500 an hour, and this work is no kidding worth 100, and this is worth 30, right? your time and effort is a blend of that.
Yeah. And if you're telling me you work 60 hours in a week and some of it was at $500 an hour and you made 50 grand this year, it wasn't very much.
It wasn't very much.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You spend most of your time probably in the operations and then some in the skills buckets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so this comes down to this whole idea of being purposeful in your real estate sales business. If I'm purposeful, then I have to focus in on one of my two jobs, which is lead generation.
Mhm.
And then that paves the way for me to get truly excellent at the skill set. And if I do $500 work and then I couple that with $100 an hour work, now I can absolutely afford to hire somebody who is outstanding operationally
Mhm.
to do what ends up being maybe 80% of their overall time of the job, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe a slightly different conversation, but our market is being disrupted by people trying to get into this line, and
Hmm.
some people don't really know, but the disruption is happening more so in that middle ground,
Sure.
middle to top ground. So if you want to make the big dollars that we were all promised when we got into real estate,
Yeah.
right? Like the disruption's not happening on the lead generation as much as in that middle ground, right?
Yeah, so at a nationwide level, there's a lot of disruption happening at the lead generation level, but that's irrelevant to you and that's
Right.
irrelevant to me.
Right.
It's completely relevant to somebody who doesn't want to do it,
Yeah.
because the companies that go out and spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to do this on your behalf are then going to go out and say, hey, like, we're not going to pay you much for this because we already did this heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So this is where our network comes in. This is where we start realizing, like, hey, there are people around me who know me, like me, and trust me.
Hmm.
And if I spend my time purposefully connecting with them, serving them, like
Hmm.
helping them in the community, all of those things, and I build the skill set to be able to ask for business, which is crucial. There's a
Yep.
lot of people that just have really big hearts in our industry. They really genuinely like people, but they're also afraid to ask for business. I've seen people like that that are just a gift to their community, and they're broke,
Yep.
and their community would love to recommend them and refer them, and they just never ask. And so if you're somebody who is outside of the real estate industry, there's just a good chance that you're not thinking about your real estate agent. You don't even know necessarily how they get paid.
Right.
So that's on us.
Yeah. What I hear you saying, and to piggyback on this lead generation topic, is people are afraid of it
Yes.
because there's some fear around it. They think of it as the boiler room where I'm going to
Hmm.
be cold calling everybody, and there are some people that do that, and they do it very successfully. And there's other ways to do lead generation, including calling and talking to the people that you already know, the sphere that you already know, and having the skills to have those conversations that lead to you helping those people buy and sell and
Hmm.
helping their friends and family buy and sell. Because it's a heartbreaking moment when
Oh,
you find out that one of your close friends or one of your friends buys with somebody else because they had no idea that you were in real estate.
yeah. I think it was it was either towards the end of my first year or early in my second year of real estate. I had this young couple. They called me and they're like, hey, Reed, we're excited. We want to buy a house. Can you help us?
Mm.
I'm like, yes, like it was manna from heaven, just fell
Yeah.
in my lap, right? They were a friend of a friend. And absolutely, I go show them a house, and it went great. Like it was awesome. It was a really nice house. They weren't pre-qualified because I didn't know what I was. Still was,
Yeah.
I should have done that first. And then I don't hear from them for a week or two, and so I call them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful you reached out." Okay, great, good way to start a conversation, right?
Mm.
They said, we sat down and talked to a lender, and they had an agent that they work with
Mm.
all the time, and so that agent was able to write it up, and we're on the way to owning our first house, and it was so soul crushing,
Right.
right? And then you take a step back and you ask yourself the question, what is the reason that this happened? Were they
Mm.
buyers are liars and sellers are worse? Like, is that
Right.
the narrative? No, an unskilled real estate agent didn't educate his clients on this. They never would have worked with anybody
Mm.
else if they would have only known. They were so excited for me. Like they
Right.
genuinely thought I won. Like because they called me, right? Like, I'm a real estate agent. Like, everybody in this whole
Mhm.
situation won. It
Yeah,
was my fault.
they thought your brokerage paid you to show that house.
They thought I just made money, like everybody, like you show up to work and you make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the way this works. So,
Right.
well, is there anything more you want to add on these, the 1 career, 2 jobs, 3 buckets?
Yeah, so the other thing I would say is in your business, in your real estate practice,
Mhm.
be purposeful. And that sounds so simple, but we as people are frequently not very purposeful. We're not
Mhm.
purposeful always about like our morning routines. We're not purposeful about our calendar sometimes. We're not purposeful about our relationships, right? And we take that and we go all the way back, we go all the way down to our business and we say, okay, am I being purposeful in my business? Purposeful may not mean handing off all of the operational tasks right now.
Right.
But what it does mean is when you're ready to hand something off, you know exactly what it's going to be first.
Yep.
Right. Know, even the person that raises their hand and says, "Hey, I don't want to do lead generation. I'm unwilling to do lead generation." Okay, like you have an issue. However, if you can find the systems and structures and people surround yourself with where you can make some level of money for that and you're okay with it,
Mhm.
maybe that works for your life. But being intentional of that as opposed to being like driven by fear or just falling into things, I think that's the biggest takeaway I want for people from this conversation is you can be purposeful about your business. You can stop and think, what am I doing right now? Is this worth my time? Is this my best use? Right.
Yeah, I think I would like to add that I want you to be purposeful about your business, but also don't be afraid of lead generation because there's lots of different types.
Yes.
There's different ways to do it. There are things that will be natural for you and things that won't be natural.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to find those things that will be natural because it's it's one of the, if not the most important portion of your real estate career is finding that. And don't be afraid of it. If you don't know what to do, you can, check out RMG Agent Podcast. You can look for the action guide. You can reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of different ways. I've tried different things. I was somebody that was afraid of that. I had the fear. A lot of it was because I didn't know what I would say.
Sure.
I had to, find scripts that were natural for me and things that I could do. And ultimately, I did find things that were natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't allowing myself to not do it, which is what I see a lot of people do, is they are fearful from it, so they don't do it.
Yes.
And that's not what I want you to do. I want you to be purposeful and I want you to live a big life.
Yes.
So
yeah, lead generation is not, back in the day, like the mindset that I just watched, like people would panic. Like, it's like the white, I'm going to call the white pages or I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was, it's like, whoa, time out. Right. Let's not polarize this. You have 30, 40, 50, 1,000 different ways that you can lead generate. If you're being purposeful about it, that's going to be great. And by the way, if you're being purposeful about it, you're going to have to put effort into it. It's going to cost you something. You're going to have to get over your fear, whatever that is, because I saw a video on Facebook saying, never make a cold call again. Learn how to lead generate using a YouTube channel. And I just thought, that's awesome. I have a buddy that does that, but he logs unbelievable amounts of hours and money, and he has sharpened his skill set incredibly to do that. And it drives a lot of business, but it's not easy. None of it's actually easy.
And it didn't show up day one.
It didn't show up day one or year one.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking long term, like same thing with a geographic farm,
Sure.
right? Like we see that as well. It's like, I'm just going to send mailers to my neighborhood. Like, yeah, that is a strategy. That's on the marketing side of things.
Yep.
It's usually 16 to 18 months before things start to show up. But what you could do is you could door knock that neighborhood.
Yeah, that's right.
You could find a house in that neighborhood that's listed by your brokerage, ask if you can do an open house and door knock those people and invite them to it, right?
Yes.
Like now we're talking about being proactive on things that can actually show up today.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think one of our other episodes we address, the marketing versus, basically it's using our time or using our money, right,
Yep.
as leverage.
Yep.
So yeah, I love it.
Our next episode is pretending that you have a job.
Oh,
and how
the
you-
nasty 3-letter word.
Yeah, and how you structure your day and your business around that. So come back, check that one out. We're just super excited for that, and maybe a little bit of a mindset switch for you on how we look at this. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Again, guys, we're here to make an impact in your life.
Mhm.
We're here to empower you, and we're here to encourage you. And so, hopefully, you got that from us. Again, Jake and I'd love it if you like, subscribe, do all the things, give us reviews, and maybe above all those things, share this with somebody that you think that it would actually make an impact in their life. Empower them and encourage them. And we'll see you in the next episode.
see ya.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Another fantastic episode of the RMG Agent Podcast in the books, your go-to resource for everything real estate and all that comes with it. Don't miss out on more insights and resources at rmgagentpodcast.com. And as always, connect with us on social media. It's linked in the description below. And like,
One of the big
subscribe,
mistakes I see a lot of
and
agents
share
make.
if you found this information valuable. It helps us continue to contribute and keeps us thriving. This is Reed Moore, and I hope you've gained valuable insight and tips that will guide you along your journey as a real estate professional. And as always, I hope that you are impacted in a positive way, empowered with knowledge, and encouraged to go and do what it takes to reach your goals. Take care, everybody.